Pickles, pickles, I like pickles. I like 'em better than an old fudge sickle. Pickles, pickles, I like pickles. Won't you give me a pickle? Pickles, pickles, I like pickles. Don't you know they make my tummy tickle? Pickles, pickles, I like pickles. Won't you give me a pickle? Sliced ones, kosher ones, let's have a garlic one. I'll eat pickles however they come. Sweet ones, dill ones, chopped up in relish ones. I like pickles, oh yes I do. Oh, pickles, pickles, I like pickles. If you got no pickles, I'll take a nickel.
Hello everyone, my name is Amberlin and today we're in the kitchen again making pickles. These pickles are our new favorite and they're more of a bread and butter flavor. I made this one a couple weeks ago. All right, so they have a nice crunch, a little sweet and a little sour, and just a really nice pickle. I'm a bit of a rebel canner, so that means I don't follow all of the specific canning rules. This video might not be for you if you are very particular on specific canning methods. So we have our jars in the 250 oven warming up. They're clean. I didn't sterilize them, but you can do that if you want. And over here on our aga, we have our canning lids warming up. If you do not have an aga, you want to put your lids in a pot of hot water to soften the seal. You don't want to boil or simmer the lids because it can damage the seal. Something else that rebel canners do is they like to save their lids. That's a big no-no for most people, but it can be done if you do it properly. So you can see this lid. This is a nice lid. I am not recommending that you do this. You actually shouldn't do it. So this is just what I do. So there's no rust on this part of the lid, the white part, and that's what you want. You do not want rust. Sometimes a little speck is okay, especially if you're doing anything acidic. That rust can kind of expand and then drip down into your jar. So I'm going to use both of these lids. You can see there's a little speck here, but I'm going to use it. And this seal is quite good. There's not a really deep indent in the seal, and that's what you want. A bit of an indent is fine. But if it's really pressed down, there's more of a chance that your jar won't seal properly. This is a lid that I would not want to really use. It just looks gross. And you want to watch the rim here. You don't want it to be bumped or from being pried open because that also damages the seal. Anyway, enough about lids. These are warming up on the stove. So we're going to make our brine. We have white vinegar, water. We have our own honey, mustard, salt, our own garlic powder, our own onion powder, turmeric, celery seed, cloves, and a little bit of chili peppers. And of course, our pickles. We've used apple cider vinegar in the past, but we don't find it necessary. It's too expensive, and most, if not all, of the good properties of apple cider vinegar are destroyed by the heating process. So we just use white vinegar. I've seen in other recipes that people will sprinkle salt on their cucumbers to help draw out the water. I don't do that because I like to go a little quicker, and I just incorporate the water from the cucumbers kind of as part of the water that I would add to the brine. So there's no salt on our cucumbers, and we haven't done any ice or anything to that. So we're going to start with 3/4 of a quart of water, or 3 cups. And then 1 quart or 4 cups of white vinegar. And into our pot. And then a heaping 1/4 cup of salt. So I do this kind of to personal taste. I'll give you my approximate measurements. So this is onion powder. I'll do about a teaspoon of that. Dry mustard, about a teaspoon of that. Kind of a pinch of chili flakes. Turmeric. The turmeric gives it such a nice glow. Okay, so that's about a teaspoon, maybe a tad better. Probably 1/2 teaspoon celery seed. Just a sprinkle of cloves. Couple sprinkles. and about a teaspoon of garlic powder. And our own honey, 3/4 of a cup of honey. You do not need to do the honey, but if you like a sweet pickle, then put in the honey. You could also substitute sugar. And yes, the medicinal properties are destroyed for the honey, at least lots of them, but whatever. That doesn't sound good.
Say that's okay.
But it's okay. But here's our beautiful mixture.
Lovely.
Okay, so now we're going to bring this to a boil. And then when it boils, we're gonna dump in our cucumbers and let them cook for like 2 minutes. And then we're gonna can them. So while that is heating up, I'm gonna talk just a little bit about the brines and how we reuse our pickle juice. And we will also be reusing this. After our first load of pickles, we will add a little bit more spice and more vinegar, but not water, to our brine, and then can another batch. I don't really have measurements for this, so you have to go by taste. You can take a little bit of this brine out and then taste test it to the brine that is left over from the first batch of pickles that you make. Here's an idea that I've done this last year, and I'm not recommending that you do it, but we've saved our pickle juice or our pickle brine from our pickled pickles, and we stash it away in the fridge. We were getting too much brine and it was taking up too much space in the fridge, so I evaporated it down to about 1/4 of the size and then kept that in the fridge. And it kind of caramelized, and I've made some batches using that old pickle brine, and it actually works really good. But you have to make sure that the tartness, the sourness is not too strong because it is very powerful. I've also reused bought-in pickle juice, and that has worked well also. But you want to make sure that it has enough vinegar in it to give a good sour pickle flavor. Okay. Our brine is starting to simmer. I'm going to just take a little bit out for our reference point for our next batch of pickles. This will be very strong, and you always want there to be a bit more vinegar than water content, especially when you're using cucumbers that have not been salted and had any of their water drained off, because there's a lot of water in these cucumbers. Woohoo! Wow! Ho-ho! So, we put our cucumbers in. Be very careful that you don't splat yourself. So you can see our brine is just maybe an inch below the cucumbers. And as the cucumbers cook, they will shrink quite a bit. And make sure you stir it. We have about 10 pounds of cucumbers that we are pickling here. So I'm thinking that there's between 4 and 5 pounds of cucumbers, probably 4 pounds of cucumbers in with the amount of brine that we just made. They're kind of getting translucent, this guy right there. But this one's not done yet. You do not want to cook them too much because you want to keep that crispy crunch. And you see how much they have shrunk. All right, we're about ready to take these off and start canning them, for curiosity's sake. Those are very powerful. They're pretty strong. If you don't like such strong pickles, then you could back off a bit on the vinegar. So here we go. Now we just put them into our hot jars. Sometimes they need a little coaxing. So we pack those in, and then you top it off with some brine. And here you can see how much brine there is. The pickles are covered. You want to wipe your rim, make sure it's clean, and take your nice warm lid and put it on and screw it on real nice and tight. And then you wait until you hear the very special pop. And then you know that you've had a successful canned jar of pickles. We've had these pickles last a good year in our cold room. You want to store them in a cool, dark place. They're excellent with burgers, sausages, hot dogs, sandwiches, and just as a side condiment. Look at that. This is going to make 3 quarts. Now we're going to taste it and see how it compares to before. Still pretty strong. Not as strong as before though. I think I almost prefer it this strength. Whew. That's tart. So now we're gonna put this back on the stove, bring it to a boil again, and adjust the flavors if necessary, maybe adding a bit more vinegar or some more honey or spices, and then we do the whole thing over again. And you basically just keep repeating that process, adjusting the brine as you go to the flavor that you like. And always make sure it's a little bit more on the stronger side because of the water content in the cucumbers. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed that video. Look at these beautiful pickles. And in probably 10-15 minutes, we will hear a nice pop and the seal will go down, and then we'll let it cool, and then we'll transfer it into cold storage, and it will last us a good year. And it is suggested that when you transfer this to cold storage, that you just remove the ring. That way, if the seal does come undone, it's easier for you to recognize that and either get rid of it or use it up sooner. All right, that's all for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. God bless, and don't get into a pickle.